Hey, what's going on, guys? So it's John with Just Thoughts. Thank you for stopping by the channel. So today, basically, I just wanted to have a small conversation to see if it'd be something that you'd appreciate, right? So I took a drive. I went, fishing for a little while, and tanning, just enjoying the day. And one of the things that I noticed is that we have like what it seems like from the outside, right? I'm not hyper wealthy, so I'm not really able to have an understanding of all of the good things and all the benefits and all the enjoyments that you're able to have if you have a sufficient amount of money to be able to be separate from the monetary system or the financial industry that as I've mentioned before, seeks to like kind of chain people due to not having readily available resources and the amount of tools that would be necessary to be able to get yourself out of poverty and be successful, right? So I've mentioned multiple times of how I think this came to be, right? So the first place that I think I'm just gonna throw a refresher is the guns, germs, and steel kind of mentality, right? That there's a specific causation that's forced us into the situation where we have one group of the population basically that has a surplus of wealth and resources, and then we have another section of the population that have had to deal with artificial scarcity for a long duration of time, right? And so starting with the guns, germs, and steel, I think is one of the good foundations, right? In that book, he goes into I haven't read it to be real honest with you, but I've done a lot of research on it, and one of the interesting facets that he's came up with is this idea that due to our ancestral nature, that's kind of put us in the position where we currently are, right? If your ancient ancestors would have had a better environment or would have had more resources, then they would be in a better position, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years after the fact, right? You can, kind of track how this situation has happened, right? In the book, he had mentioned how, there's a situation often that happens between nations or tribes that are opposing tribes, or that hopefully don't want conflict but have to negotiate ways in being able to live together. And one of the good examples that he gave is the conquistadors, right? People came from Spain, they ended up in South America, and basically what they did is they created their own civilization on the backs of the Incans or the whatever civilization there was at that point in time, right? And I think that echoes of that exact same philosophy have been continued in our era today, right? We have one group of the population that has access to resources, as I mentioned, tools, the correct environment, and in the subjugation that was happening at that point in time, due to the fact that the technological advances of one group of the population surpassed another group of the population, match and almost mirror the exact same situation that we're currently in. Now, the only difference is that in the 21st century, people in general have become more civilized, so we can have open discussion about being able to see how we can negotiate a better situation, right? And this is entirely coming from somebody from an exterior perspective, looking at how our situation is, how we got here, basically. And so another really good, another good, book that I think would be a good adaptation to bring in is books like *Sapiens* and *21 Lessons for the 21st Century*. Like all these books that have a lot of information about the archaeological trajectory that we have been through, and how we can apply those same universal statistics and facts and research and data into our present day, right? In a lot of those situations, he goes into, well, one of the things that I really appreciate is one of the explanations that we usually have towards how the financial tools, the capitalist system that we currently have, that is due to the fact that the one of the best inventions that we have, our liberal democracy, was actually taken from another countries. What it looks like we've done is taken a lot of the philosophical or the ideals and the characteristics and the ethics from other countries and conglomerated it here in the United States. And I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity to be able to even mention that kind of situation, right? And I'm so thankful that I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to be able to even say this, because there are other people in other countries that don't, right? And so I was driving, and that kind of got me thinking about the fact, like, okay, so I'm in a position where I have access to, like, the capitalist system. The capitalist system is what usually gets people out of object poverty, right? I'm on my second business, on my third business, technically, here with the podcast. But I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what we use is this fiat currency system, right? We've created stories, and we all agree upon these stories, and due to the fact that we all agree upon these stories, we're able to function better as a civilization, right? That's good. We've already built a foundation for people to be happy, to be successful, to be able to pursue whatever it is that you're happy about. And what I want to mention is, how do we get to the position where one section of the population is so distraught in comparison to that higher level of position, right? And what I think has happened here in the 21st century, specifically here in the 21st century, is that we have funneled or categorized people into different. We have funneled people into different categories, right? One of the easy ways to kind of explain it is that, like right now, if you don't have at least $100,000 to $300,000 in your bank account, you are a part of one funnel of the United States, right? And if you do have over $100,000 or in liquid assets, or between 100,000 and 300,000, you are part of a separate group, right? Like within the last like 5 to 10 years, we've been focusing on the new financial tool that we currently have, right? It's called cryptocurrencies, right? We love it due to the fact that it gives us an easier way of being able to exchange monetary resources in an efficient way that gives us access like people didn't have over the last like 20 to 30 years, right? I've mentioned before how the stock market is good, right? That's another one of the capitalist tools that we should continue to use. But one of the bad parts about it is that if you're unfamiliar with how finances work, it's sometimes difficult to be able to get into. It would have been difficult at that point in time, right? I think that there were certain entrance fees. You had to, if you were day trading, you would have to have a certain amount of trades per week, and if you didn't execute those trades, or if you did too many, then you would be unable to continue trading. I think that's called pattern day trading rules, and that actually might apply in our society today in the 21st century. Which I could be incorrect about that, but of course, go ahead and do your own research, right? So cryptocurrencies have, led the way in being able to democratize, freedom and access to resources and opportunities, right? But there is another section, right? Remember that 200 to 300,000. That's one group. Another group is the group that was able to ride that wave of the Tron, the Doge, the early crypto, Bitcoin, the early cryptocurrencies, right? That's another section of the population, right? So we have two separate, groups of the population currently that enjoy and are able to receive the benefits of having wealth due to the fact that our capitalist system has been functioning correctly, right? Now the problem with that is that that I'm not a part of any of those groups, right? And I consider myself in a position where I can be open about trying to open up discussion, trying to have conversation with anybody that watches this about seeing what we can do about this, because I know that it's not just me. I know that there are thousands, maybe millions of other people that have been casted into the same funnel that I was casted in, right? And usually what we try to do when we have these kind of situations is we try to use our liberal democracy, the tools of liberal democracy, to be able to have conversation and have discussion, right? So the first thing that I think that I would do if I realized that I believe I should be in a position where I have access to resources and opportunities, but I was unable to do so due to environmental habitation and certain restrictions that I had prior to being able to sit down and make this video, right? Which is perfectly fine. Everybody has their own kind of difficulties and tribulations and hardships. But what makes our country good is the fact that no matter what kind of situations that you've been through, the American dream is that if you're working hard, the access to success is there, right? And I think that some of that philosophy has been tainted over the last few years due to the fact that we have such a large population, such a growing population of people that are becoming aware of how these situations have happened in the past, right? The archaeological or the history, basically, of how we got to this point in time, right? And it's really interesting to me that we don't have more of our youth that are interested in being politically active and being able to mention how they feel, right? And that led me to another situation where I see that there's an all rightness, there's a calmness that we have throughout this group, right? The third section, the third category that doesn't have any true access to resources and opportunities, right? And uh, and this calmness it invokes a spirit of anger due to the fact that I know that there are thousands of people that if you were put in the right position or if you had the correct environment that they could do anything, right? It's in my belief that we rise to our highest occasion, right? If we're put in a situation where we have to be at a level 10 superiority in comparison to who you are currently, then you're gonna, by human spirit, you're gonna rise to the occasion, right? And that's what I think that we should start doing. We should start having conversation, seeing what we can do about creating policy, creating legislation. We should open up conversation so that the thousands and millions of people that were unable to get on that boat, you know, either within the last 20 to 40 years, when we were doing the exact same thing that we were doing here with cryptocurrencies in stocks, right? So the interesting part is that it's not, it's unilateral when you think about it in a generational sense, right? There are, people that, two generations, a generation ahead of me, were in the same situation and they did nothing, right? I'm not sure if it was access to tools, access to resources, but the way in which they were able to conceal wealth and make sure that the other section of the population was unable to have access to those resources are kind of similar to what's currently happening in our society today, right? And I think that we should just start talking more about the fact that there have been so many of these situations that have happened throughout the United States, and it's really important for somebody to just be open and honest about the fact that there's a section of the population whose tools were removed from their tool belt, right? And if your tools were removed from your tool belt, it's entirely due to the fact of your environment, or due to the fact that due to mainly environment, right? And that's just a part of the information that I think is crucial for us to, as I mentioned, keep talking about, because if we get into a situation where we're all right with how things are operating currently, that's what I think ends up leading to chaos and negativity and a disruption basically in our standard of living, right? There's no reason that people that didn't have the correct environment shouldn't have the same tools to be able to reach success. And if you agree with that information, thank you so much for being here. In the future, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, donate to the channel. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.